Oh, hi. Welcome to Aquatazoo, where we like to nerd out over all things zoo and aquarium related. I'm l.semple, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the side hustle. I don't know if a lot of people prefer that term. It's pretty common these days, no matter what your job is, that you make a little money on the side. That's what I mean. We're talking about a side hustle here because they're very common with zoo and aquarium folks. So this isn't necessarily like directly zoo and aquarium related, but it is related to the staff because you would be shocked to know how many people have some kind of side job that they're doing to supplement their income or stay busy or investigate other interests that they have. They often have some other type of income or some other type of job or duty that they do apart from animal care or whatever work that they do at a zoo or aquarium. Maybe it's not so weird now. So many people do this that it's not even that strange. But I feel like almost everyone I've known throughout my career in zoo and aquarium work, even before it was quote unquote cool, had side jobs. All right, so I'm just going to off the bat address the elephant in the room. Zoo pun, haha. But why do zoo and aquarium professionals often have side jobs? I'm just going to be very honest here. And if you ask any zoo and aquarium professionals about this, they'll probably give you an honest answer as well. But the issue is the pay. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or blame anyone for this. But yeah, our jobs don't pay a whole lot of money when you start to consider the amount of education that we are anticipated to have, the certifications that we should have, the experience that they're looking for when it comes to zoo and aquarium work, the competitiveness of the job. So basically, these jobs are really cool. I acknowledge that. And a lot of people would want them because who doesn't want to work with these awesome animals? It's a great job. But that means that people are willing to work for less and less, and then organizations can kind of take advantage of that and then pay less and less because people are still willing to do it regardless. And so despite the fact that zoos and aquariums are looking for people with, high personal integrity and lots of certifications, experience, education, all of these factors, in addition to whatever specifics they need for the job. So whether it's people skills to work with education and the public, or if it's technical skills to work with animals, etc., etc. On top of all that, the people who are aiming for these jobs also have to compete with others who may be willing to take less and to do the job for less pay, less money, less benefits, whatever it is. So that kind of leads to the mess that we're in at this point. The jobs are still great. The education requirements are getting higher. It's almost to the point where you are going to have trouble competing unless you've at least kind of considered extra schooling. So beyond associate's degree, beyond bachelor's degree, you have more of a leg up if you're looking at a master's degree. And speaking as someone who has higher education, I love education. And so I've done it for me, not necessarily to compete for more jobs, but I do it for me because I enjoy school and I'm good at school. So speaking as someone who enjoys higher education, it is not necessary for people to have these advanced degrees just to compete for a job that pays them kind of pennies. We talk about within the field a passion tax, and that is when we refer to the fact that our organizations are sometimes depending on us to just be paid through fulfillment, through passion. We love the animals. We love what we do. We're fascinated with our work every day. That's great. That's wonderful. It is fulfilling. We feel like we're making a difference in the world. We feel like we're helping these animals and we're helping wild populations and all of the things, right? All the things that zoos and aquariums say that they do, because they do that work. But the staff then is kind of responsible for finding their own drive to keep going because sometimes the pay is not adequate. This is not the case for all institutions, and I'm not trying to name anyone in particular, but this is just a understood, very rampant issue in our field. I'm bringing it up now because if anybody is looking into going into this field, we're doing a little bit better about it now. Like we're getting some forward momentum with this and making this change. But when you consider the like entry level jobs for zoos and aquariums, particularly in animal care and education, most likely, those jobs pay very little compared to other entry-level jobs where we're not looking for X amount of education, X amount of experience. Yes, for an entry-level job, X amount of this and that and whatever else. You know, yes, even those entry-level jobs, people are looking for experience. Have you volunteered anywhere? Have you ever taken care of animals before? You know, there are things that you can get out of life experience. You know, even if you took care of cows on a farm while you were growing up, that still counts. You know what I mean? So people, even though these are entry-level jobs that we're looking at, say in animal care, I'm just going to use that as an example because I know it pretty well. When you're looking for people to join your team, you still want to know that they understand what animal care is and that it's not glamorous. It's not, you know, in my case, I work in an aquarium, so a lot of people have this vision of dolphin trainers, which is lovely, but, you know, hanging out in a wetsuit and swimming with dolphins all day is not actually what we do. There's a lot of other things going on. We're testing water quality, we're preparing diets, we're cleaning, we're scrubbing, we're doing all sorts of other things that don't involve swimming with dolphins, right? And so when you're asking if somebody for an entry-level position has animal care experience, we want to make sure that they understand that it's not all hanging out with dolphins all day, that there's going to be feces involved, that there's going to be heavy lifting, crawling, scrubbing, and like all of these things that are not the glamorous part of the job, so that they understand. And so that's kind of why we ask whether people have experience, even for entry-level jobs, because it's hard to bring in people who have this vision in their head of how the job works, then get the experience, and then realize this is not for them, and then we're back to square one. And it's really costly in time and money to do that, because we want to keep growing our staff and making sure that everything's cohesive, everyone's trained for safety purposes, and for the animal's welfare. And it's hard to maintain that when you're constantly having turnover because people do not understand what the job is, right? So anyway, that's why if you ever look for an entry-level job with a zoo or aquarium, there's still requirements that need to be made prior to you stepping foot on that location, right? And they're not all the same. And there are other things that make you more attractive. Like even if you don't have animal care experience, you might have experience doing something adjacent, but then you also have like scientific experience, or you know, there are other ways to make yourself like more attractive to a potential hiring manager, and also just being a good person and having a nice go get 'em attitude and being ready to learn all the things also helps. So don't get discouraged if you're looking to go into this job, but just understand what barriers are there and what obstacles you're going to have to overcome, even in the beginning parts. So that was a long tangent, but kind of needed it to set up what the side hustle is going on. So this being the case, we've got people who are very talented, very passionate, oftentimes quite artistic, that are working in animal care. They're doing their thing. They love what they're doing. They love the animals, etc. They're not bringing home a ton of money because, again, like that passion tax we kind of joke about, you're not making a lot of money because you're willing to do it anyway. So we hang out and still do the job, right? But then that doesn't pay the bills. Passion tax does not pay the bills. So then we end up doing a side hustle. And so that can take many forms. I've got several right now myself. I'm sure you've heard, if you've been listening to the podcast at all, that I do a weird out of place advertisement for a travel agency type stuff at the end of every episode, or most episodes. And that's because that's one of my side hustles. It's one that works for me because on top of school, on top of trying to produce a podcast, I can do a little bit of work on the side to get people's vacations in order on my own timeline, you know? So it's not a X time to X time shift work kind of thing. I have done that in the past too, but for right now, the travel agency, though I'm not bringing in a lot of money, just a little bit extra helps. And so that is one of my main side hustles right now. And I've been doing that one for several years. So, hey, if you need any help planning, like particularly a Disney vacation, let me know. I'm happy to help. Anyway. There's that. I've worked in retail before, in the same building where my facility's at, in the same campus before. I've worked ropes courses in the evenings. I've done management on the side. Some people will do consulting if they have a particular niche or skill set that is kind of rare. They'll do some consulting. So even if it's like zoo and aquarium related, granted, you have to work this all out to make sure there's not a conflict of interests. But when you are really talented and known for raising a particular type of animal or taking care of a particular type of animal or a particular aspect of animal care, like welfare, enrichment, training, something like that, if you're well known for that and people are looking to you for advice and things, then you could develop your own kind of consultation, I guess, where maybe you take time off of work and you go to another facility and advise them on what they're doing. And again, there's some legality issues depending on what you're trying to do because you don't want to create a conflict of interest. But if you have a talent like that, you can use it to earn yourself a little bit more money. There's a lot of zoo and aquarium consultants out there. I say a lot, but not, there's not a lot. It's not a big field to start with, but there are several people who are out there consulting for other facilities because of what their particular interest and talents in the work might be. And so that might be leadership, it might be management, it might be how to clean up your facility a little bit, like organizers, but on a zoo level. It could be, helping another facility tighten up its processes and its safety procedures and like all this other kind of stuff. There's lots of little parts of running a zoo or aquarium that could turn into a side hustle for someone. We're 200 some odd episodes into this podcast, and I've talked about 1 billion different types of the parts and pieces of running a zoo or aquarium. And so any one of those could be something that somebody decides is now going to be their concentration, their forte, their talent. And then they could develop a side hustle off of that and start helping other facilities with that aspect of the work. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a zoo or aquarium either. Obviously, it could be any kind of job. Sometimes these talents overlap in weird ways. Someone who's really good with animal care, animal training, animal interpretation, reading behaviors and things, might then go to a local pet store and start running puppy training classes and stuff like that, right? So there's things that we do on the side that kind of relate to the work that we do day to day, but are just different enough to make it interesting, to not cause a conflict of interest. But they end up kind of working out somehow. So I always thought it was funny because all of the side jobs that I've ever had have helped me out in some way in my work at an aquarium. So like one of my funniest examples is I used to work for a high ropes course. It was on the campus of the aquarium where I was working. So it was easy. I just did it out of convenience. The job seemed interesting and it was right there, right? So I could clock out of work at the aquarium and then just be at work to do the high ropes course thing. So as a result of that one, I have learned the intricacies of pulley systems and how to tie knots, which has helped me immensely when I'm trying to figure out how to move things that are heavy for work, for my main job, for aquarium work, and for trying to make sure that things are secure and safe and blah, blah, blah. So I have all these fancy knots that I can tie now, and the pulley systems. I know what works, what doesn't work, what rope goes with what pulley, what all of these abbreviations and numbers and things means when you're looking at like climbing equipment and how it translates over to what you can lift, like all of that stuff. It's so nerdy. I did not think that I was ever going to benefit from that. But I still use that knowledge to this day. And I still have my climbing harness. It's actually right next to me right now. So if I ever needed to do any weird climbing and needed to secure myself to anything, I'm ready to go. One of my first forays into leadership and management was working as an assistant manager for a laser tag place. I worked my way up there, and so I worked on and off for the same company for a while. Oh, those were the days. Laser tag may not be as cool as it once was. But it did teach me a lot about how to lead and trying to get, teenagers to follow you when you yourself are barely past being a teenager is difficult. And so I learned a lot just from kind of trial and error at that time of my life. Like, it's a time when you're doing trial and error anyway, but doing that in a, kind of leadership role professionally and trying to deal with customers and equipment and coworkers and the clashes they're having and all that kind of stuff. It taught me a lot in the beginning, even though I didn't consider myself a people person at that time, and I really wasn't. I wasn't very good at it, but it was a good learning experience to start me off down that path. And so I look back at it now and I think about scenarios that I went through and how I handled them. And yeah, I have some regrets. I could have done things better and stuff I didn't know. I didn't understand. And also at that time, management in general looked very different than it does today. And so, I think about those things from back then, and yeah, I'd handle them differently now with, 20 years more experience on me. But those are good. Those were good formative years that helped shape me as a person, as a leader, and started me off down a good road, even though I didn't know it. And working in retail is super helpful too. I've done that. And that helps you with your customer service skills and being able to put on a happy face for the benefit of your guests, right? And that definitely comes in handy in the zoo and aquarium world, because if you've got somebody who is mad about something that's not really related to you, but they're screaming at you about it, you learn quickly how to lock it up and just listen and make it known that you are listening and that you're trying to understand. It makes your customer service so much better, because bless retail folks, they are on the front lines of some craziness. I used to deal with it on the daily when I was working retail, in addition to the zoo and aquarium work. And it also did train me for different scenarios that I encountered while at my main job, my main career. So the side hustle can be helpful for your day-to-day work, and it can also bring in a little extra money to help pay those bills. I do not want anyone to think that zoo and aquarium work is not necessarily worth it if you have to have multiple jobs. And you don't necessarily have to. This is like a personal choice, right? So there were sacrifices I was willing to make and some sacrifices that I wasn't willing to make. I'm an only child, and I'm not used to sharing my living space with other people. And I'm also of a certain age at this point where I don't feel like that's appropriate for me anymore. And for other people, it might be appropriate and they might love that. And I love that for them. But for me, it's imperative to me and my well-being individually that I live on my own and that I can handle that and support myself in that space, right? So I have my own place and I take care of it on my own, and I need to make extra money to do that. So yes, I have side hustles to help me out, But if I wanted to drop the side hustles, I could just pick up a roommate or, something else like that, or just formulate a different living situation for myself where things are just generally cheaper. I have other options at my fingertips that I can take, right? But I know me very well, and I know I won't be happy if I can't provide for myself the way I think I should, and it's just going to eat away at me if I don't. So I've chosen to do the side hustle rather than to make other choices about my living situation. Honestly, I have family not far away. I could live with them rent free, honestly, and save a ton of money. But that would not be good for my mental health. You know what I mean. So I have made choices for myself, and a lot of people do that. I've known tons of people who decide to work together and then live together, and that works out fine for them. And then they always have somebody around, somebody close to hang out with. They go on trips together, they do stuff together, they go to movies together, all the things that roommates and friends do, and that's great. I need alone time. And so they don't have the need for the side hustle as much because they have each other to lean on. They're only having to pay, half the rent or whatever. But they have made different life choices than I would. So I choose the side work over the roommate situation. So I don't know what type of person you might be, and you might be down with just having a roommate rather than dealing with a side job. Maybe you like to not have to work all the time. That's totally fine too. I've never minded it. I've usually had multiple jobs. It's just how I've grown up. It's how I watched my parents grow up too, while I was growing up, rather. They always had side jobs and just did what they needed to do to attain the type of life that they wanted to have. And so I took that and I ran with it. And that's what I do now. And so do I live in absolute luxury? No. I do not. I still kind of live paycheck to paycheck, but it's okay. I still love the work that I do. I think that what I'm doing is fulfilling to me. I have the space that I need to rejuvenate myself and take care of myself mentally and physically. And this is fine. This is what I do. And I don't want to brag or anything, but I have Netflix and Disney Plus, so those are my luxuries. But yeah, the point of this episode is really to kind of go over side hustles because I want everyone to understand that they exist. They may become necessary if you're in our line of work. There's ways you can go about it. You can either use a talent or a skill set that you already have and turn that into some kind of extra work. Or you could just kind of pick up another job that might not be related to what you do. I like learning new things. So I generally go the route of picking up something entirely new and learning about it. I didn't know anything about laser tag, about high ropes courses, about retail, catering, law, all kinds of things that I've done in the past that are not related to my main career. I just like learning new stuff. So I like to pick up something new, just shift work maybe, or whatever is available, whatever seems reasonable for like effort versus time spent and money gained, I guess. So I'm just kind of balancing it all out in my head and I'll come up with a solution, right? So if I don't want to put a lot of mental capacity into it and a lot of work on my end, I'll just pick up some shift work and call it a day. And if I still want to learn about something new, I'll pick up something completely unrelated to what I do and just, I guess, get exposed to a new trade. And you can do other jobs that are more conducive to your own schedule. Like I said, I do travel agent work because it's a little bit more conducive to my schedule. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it if I don't have the time to spend. And but I could spend tons of time on it. There's lots of training and things that my agency provides that I could be spending more time on and that I've been woefully neglecting because of school. But I could spend more time doing that. And you could do Uber, Lyft, food delivery services, all kinds of delivery services. If you're more interested in driving, I hate driving, so I probably wouldn't do that one. That's just personal preference. But if you're interested in the field, you're new to the field, you don't know how this all works, just understand that side work is available to you if you need it, because we are all aware, those of us in leadership and management for zoos and aquariums are very aware of the pay discrepancies. The fact that in some area, like in my area, the starting pay for a new zookeeper, aquarist, animal care person, or entry level zoo or aquarium professional is woefully low compared to Amazon or some other big store that's in the area. There's just a huge difference for much less training, much less experience required, much less of everything required, including thinking. So there are other options available to these fine people, and aquarium and zoo work is notably not great about paying top dollar for all the things that they require, because they know that we are passionate people that will do it even for less money. It shouldn't be terribly less money, but we'll do it for less money because we love the job. We love the work. We love the animals, right? So some organizations have taken advantage of that in the past, but I'll be honest, all of our organizations have taken advantage of that. If they haven't fixed it by now, they have taken that advantage of that in the past, right? And so we've all ended up across the board paying lower than we should for all jobs. If you have a job in a zoo or aquarium that is equitable to another job in another type of organization, that other type of organization is going to pay more. So like if you're an accountant for a zoo or aquarium, you're getting paid less than you would as an accountant pretty much anywhere else. And so you just have to kind of keep that in mind. This is also a nonprofit issue, a nonprofit organization issue, where there's a little bit of passion tax going on there too. So if you compare nonprofits to for-profits, the pay is going to be a little bit different. And then zoo and aquarium work on top of that, generally the pay is even lower. So these are things that we're trying to deal with, and it's a hard problem to fix because we've been doing this for so long and have been kind of underpaying people for so long that it's hard to raise the bar together. And so some facilities are able to do that and able to raise their labor budgets quite a bit to be able to compensate like that. And they're planning for the future to be able to do that further. So I'm hoping that this is not an issue in the future, but it takes a long time, a lot of arguing, and a lot of effort for the leadership at this point to get us there. We're working on it. Apologies ahead of time if you're getting into this field now and the pay is not so hot. Understand that this is a long, long fight. We have a battle ahead of us. So we're trying. In the meantime, you can pick up a side hustle. They're always available all the time in all kinds of different fields and work types. And, you know, is it work from home? Is it not work from home? I've known people who work for Amazon, for Disney, doing home stuff, like call center kind of work from home. And you know, that's great. That works too. If you can fit it into your life and still live a healthy life, do what you need to do. Keep whatever type of lifestyle that you feel is necessary for your well-being and go for it. Do not feel ashamed about side work. Do not feel like you're weird about it, like that you don't want it or you do want it. You know, whatever your decision is, we're going to understand and we'll try to work with you as best we can. Because we've all been there. So I just wanted to mention that it's there, mention why it's there, and just understand that as you go through this field at the moment, it's not paying super great. You can probably make better money elsewhere, but I hope you don't leave. I hope you still keep going because it's super cool. It's fun. And we need more passionate people who are willing to keep going because we're going to fix this at some point. I promise. We're working on it. Okay, if you have any questions about that or any other zoo or aquarium things or leadership and management stuff, you can write it up in an email and send it to me at aquatazoo@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you do, don't forget to follow or subscribe on your podcast player of choice. That way you'll get all of that sweet, sweet content as soon as it releases. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, this is one of my side hustles. You can find me at patreon.com/aquatazoo. I know I technically already mentioned it, but if you're interested in taking a vacation and you don't know where to start, I happen to be a personal vacation advisor with Magical Vacation Planner, and I would love to help you out. It does not cost you anything extra. The links are in the show notes. Okay. Thanks for listening. I heart your faces. Okay, bye.